everyone. Welcome to the 5 O'Clock Sweats podcast. This is episode 3. I am your host, Chris, along with co-hosts Ryan and Derick. Tonight's topic of discussion, we're just going to keep it pretty vague in general and kind of see where things go, but we're going to talk a lot about movies tonight. So let's get right into it. I'm going to kind of direct it over to Ryan. Ryan, I want you to tell us a little bit about movies that you kind of grew up on. And again, that doesn't mean that they have to be like kids' movies. And B, some genres that you are kind of drawn to in terms of movies.
Yeah, so I love movies. They've been in my life for as long as I remember. My dad was a huge movie guy growing up. And obviously, like I grew up like all of us on like the Disney classics, Lion King, Aladdin, all those good ones. But honestly, like my favorite, and still to this day, one of my favorite genres, and I don't even know, I guess this is a genre, is like the monster movie genre, or like the giant kaiju monster attacks a city, or there is some like monster or some creature that's threatening to kill people, and humans have to figure out a way to destroy it. Which brings me honestly to my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite movie of all time. It's in my top 5.
Is this what I think it is based on this last weekend?
You know it.
Oh, God.
Jaws. It's a classic.
Oh, okay.
It hits every note
I'm right there.
for me. I want in a movie. It's got that thriller, tense feel throughout the movie. It's got great acting, great casting too. It's got some humor, especially from the character Quint and just the camaraderie the three leads have. And then just obviously the shark. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I was so fascinated with the ocean and like the sea life, sharks, dolphins, whales, turtles, whatever.
Yep, all sea life, correct.
Huge fan. But anyway, yeah, Jaws. I probably saw Jaws way too young. My dad showed it to me. It only made me afraid of the ocean for a little bit. And then
define a little bit. Do you remember?
I think maybe like literally my first time seeing it, and I forget what time of year it was, but the next time I went to the beach, whenever that, and I think I was probably like between like 10 and 12 in that range. And then just getting like the heebie-jeebies, like ooh, like this scene seems awfully familiar from that movie I just saw a little while ago with the giant shark that's eating everybody.
Oh my God, he said heebie-jeebies.
I said heebie-jeebies.
He said heebie-jeebies like ooh.
But that's a movie that doesn't get old for me. It aged really well. Maybe the shark didn't, but honestly, I think the shark, like I kind of like, it's kind of got some charm to it, like the practical shark.
Sure.
I don't think it looks too bad. It looks like, I think the look of it adds to the horror. Like it's a frightening looking shark. Like it looks kind of janky, but in a scary way.
So let me ask this. I want to know your take on this, and Derick, you can chime in too. Where do you put Jaws in terms of like genre? Now, do you consider it to be like just a raw horror film, or is it more than that? Ryan, you start first. Derick, I want you to chime in after him.
I think I might be better going first here.
Do it.
Surprising note, I've never seen Jaws.
Oh God.
my
Never
God.
have I ever. It was always like randomly popping up on TNT randomly.
Okay.
And like I'd catch bits and pieces of it, but I have no idea what it's about. I kind of understand why they needed a bigger boat. That's all I got.
Definitely needed a bigger boat. Definitely didn't want to go in the water. Okay, so based on what you had seen, of the bits and pieces that you've seen, and you obviously know the premise of the movie without, I guess, necessarily having seen it, where would you just put it, right? This is kind of a good question for someone that hasn't really seen the film. Based on description, where would you put that?
I don't know, suspense, thriller,
Yeah.
somewhere in that
Okay.
genre, right? Because that feels like the theme of it, right? Just a shark lurking,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Yeah.
even thematically consistent with like the Jaws theme, right? Dun, dun. Like that's
Mhm.
what it's about.
Yeah.
I feel like
absolutely.
that's where
Okay, I
pin
think
it.
that's fair. Ryan, what do you think? Where would you classify? What genre would you put
Yeah, I mean,
Jaws in?
so I was like mildly obsessed with this movie when I first saw it for a while when I was younger. I think when it first came out, and I believe it came out in the 70s, like mid to late 70s. I could look it up if I could look it up right now. But
1975.
there we go. I think when it first came out, it was a straight up horror movie. Um, people, I read that people were afraid to go in their swimming pools, take baths, just anything where they were like sitting in water.
Sounds like an
Just
excuse to me,
scared
honestly.
them. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was the first movie of its kind back then. There wasn't really a movie like that that made you fear the ocean like that. So I think
Absolutely.
that was huge, and that's the reason why people seeing that movie were so, I guess, traumatized by it at first. Like, I don't have numbers. I can't support this in any way, but I'm sure the number of beachgoers that summer went it was lower than the previous summer. I have no way of proving that, but I will guarantee that is the case.
I
But
would I would say that it not only like set like kind of like a fear in people that maybe didn't exist before, but I would even say, and maybe something we'll discuss a little further in the episode, but I don't know if somebody fact checks this, but I think like it broke like crazy box office records. Like I'm pretty sure for the longest time it was like one of the top grossing films and might still be. I don't know, where
I,
it stands
I
now.
think that's factual. We could look it up honestly. But let me
Let me
see.
see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it on Wikipedia. That it doesn't really say where it still stands today. Right, I can
I mean,
say
it's
that it
hard to put it up
So
opened the $7 million
against.
weekend, but that means nothing now.
I mean, it had a budget of $9 million, and it made $476 million at the box office. So
That's insane
I would
for
say
a
that's a
shark, dude.
rousing success.
For a
That's wild.
shark.
That's crazy. Um, but I mean, going down that same kind of obsession rabbit hole I alluded to earlier. I mean, if you read about the struggles they had producing this movie, like the shark would constantly sink. There were issues with weather. Um, and there were, I mean, other just on set issues. They just couldn't catch a break, and it just made me appreciate the movie even more. The way how good it came out despite all these issues. I mean, obviously, Spielberg's directing it, so it's got that Spielberg magic, and it's one of his earlier films. So, um, I mean, it's got that amazing score. John Williams can do no wrong. Um, I mean, what could you not like about that movie? I mean, the only reason you're not the only way you're not gonna like that movie is if you hate sharks or the ocean or classic movies.
Okay,
Uh,
Wow,
fair enough.
bold.
Fair
yeah,
enough.
no, I'm
I
kidding,
would
but
say too, though. I think what's interesting about Jaws is not only that, um, you have Spielberg, right? Like it's a little odd sometimes to see such big names behind like a quote unquote horror film like that. Especially I think like in the '70s. The other thing I would say too is, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, Ryan, is the just the practical effects. And I almost feel like it's like kind of a testament to the fact that like sometimes just doing your own effects and practical props, right? The shark there's obviously no CGI or anything, and it's like cardboard fins. Like you don't need a lot to make something scary and suspenseful. And even the score, right? Like the classic sound. It's like it's so simple, but it
it's
just is so effective. And I
yeah,
think it just shows like how movie magic is really kind of a thing. You know.
yeah, and I think Jaws is the prime example of less is more when it comes to certain movies, especially horror movies. They barely they don't show the shark until about halfway through the movie. And when they do show it, it's it's probably one of the scary, if you've never seen the movie, it's one of the scariest things you'll ever see. Like, I don't know, or Chris, I don't, you can edit that out. I don't know if you remember that scene I'm talking about with the where they're chumming the water.
So tell me the scene again. I mean, I've seen the movie 100,000 times.
So they're on the water. They're trying to find the shark. They can't find him, and they're
chumming. Okay.
Yeah,
Are
they
you talking
tell
about the
Chief.
part where then he jumps up?
Yeah, the shark jumps up and scares.
Like it's kind of out of
Brody.
focus, right? Like they're looking at him chumming, and then the shark just kind of comes up in the background there a little
Yep.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Dude,
so
that's
good.
great. Or I mean, you're talking about like even the parts where like the buoys, right? Like they're literally
Oh my
there's no
God.
shark involved in terms of on screen. It's just like the buoys go under, right? So it's just like, and then like you're following the shark based on the buoys, and then they pop up somewhere else because they got he lost them or something. So it's like
I love that.
just like the most simple effects, but it has
It's so
such power to it. Absolutely, I
Yeah.
agree.
And I guess
agree.
not showing the shark for so long, right? That's fear of the unknown. That's
Sure.
adding to the suspense, adding to the tension the
Sure.
whole time.
And
Yeah.
I would almost say that maybe like more modern movies kind of that's where they shoot themselves in the foot, is maybe the monster has too much screen time, so to speak. And they didn't have crazy CGI, so it's like, we can only do a certain amount of shots where the shark or the monster is present. So I'm a fan of that kind of style, and I think horror movies have definitely they've been they've adapted, I guess, to the way that modern movies are made, but they don't have the same scare factor, I think.
Yeah. And one thing, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this was on, if any of that was on purpose with not showing the shark for so long. They literally couldn't show the shark as much as they wanted to because of all the difficulties with the shark itself. I don't like if they had a perfectly working prosthetic shark. I don't know if maybe they do show the shark more, and then maybe the movie's not as good. So perhaps all those technical difficulties they were having actually, paid off, and they were a blessing in disguise. But also it's Spielberg, so I tend to think he may have gone that direction anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll never know. That's kind of one of the mysteries, I guess.
The mystery of Jaws. Well, I agree with you 100%. Jaws is definitely up there on the list. So Ryan, we'll touch base again in a bit here, but Derick, I want to kind of shoot over to you. What do you think would be like a top movie you grew up on, or a genre of movies that you like? I know we're all like strapped for time these days, so
Yeah.
movie time's hard to get to these days, but take us through that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll admit up front that I'm a little bit out of my depth here. The more I thought about what I would bring to the table here, the more I realized I don't have a ton to bring to the table. Growing up, I didn't really watch a ton of movies, and now that I'm me, I still don't really watch a ton of movies.
Mhm.
But like Ryan said, I grew up watching all the cartoon movies, or all the Disney movies. Remember, I think I actually have the VHSs like a couple rooms over. But
I've got a ton.
oh
I've
yeah,
got so many back at home.
Lion King, Toy Story, Hercules, and Aladdin. I think those
Okay.
were like my four top Disney movies at that
So
point in time.
Then let's take that. So, of those movies, the Disney movies, what are your thoughts, even if you have not seen them, what are your thoughts, though, on like the live action adaptations that they've recently been creating, and kind of the trend that they're kind of taking there? What do you think about that, even though maybe you haven't seen them?
They feel like a toss-up. I feel like whenever a live action version of something is announced, I'm always 50-50 on whether or not it'll be good. I feel like a lot of the ones that they've done recently, like the Aladdin one, right? A lot of people had problems with the genie part of it, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe the rest of it is fine. I feel like it's okay if we would have just left these movies alone and didn't, disturb their graves.
Sure.
But I also understand that, there's people who really like these movies who, wanted more of a flesh out universe, literally.
And I don't know kind of where I stand on that myself, because I have like a huge problem with a lot of movies now. They're basically just, they're bringing back old IPs, and it feels like there's a lack of like creativity and innovation. And it's like, okay, we're just gonna, we know, for example, right? We know Terminator was huge. Let's just do that again. Or like Rocky, right? With the Creed movies. And it's like, not to say that any of them are bad, but it's like, I do get a little frustrated sometimes when I'm like, where is the new?
Right.
And it happens even like, in our conversations when we were talking about games too, like video games. It's just like, the budget to create things is so crazy these days that it's like they almost have to go with something that they know there's like an established brand for.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that cash cow they're always milking. So, to your point, I guess, yeah, like, I would say the same, like, these live actions, it's always like, I'm always like a little skeptical. And, I think, deep down, I think they're going to miss, or they do miss that magic, that the animated movies do. I mean, because you're talking about a whole part of the movie, the animation, right? The art style that just does not exist. And so I think, it's a little hard to do that, but obviously they're trying to tap into, the kids that used to watch it who are now 30, 40, whatever years old. So it's like, okay, now as an adult, you want to watch it with your kids. So, from a business standpoint, I totally get it, but I agree with you. I'm kind of like on the fence there about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I like the creativity in the ideas of the reimagining, right? So like if I think about the Emma Watson Beauty and the Beast, I feel like seeing how they did all of the, magical castle stuff outside of a cartoon environment, I think it's cool to see how they did that. Does it all work together though to make something that I actually like? I don't think so.
Well, I think that's what counts, right? The audience should like it. So maybe if that's the case, they're missing the mark a bit. But all right, good. I guess I'll chime in here a little bit. So for me, it's funny. My wife and I always kind of like joke about this. Like she grew up, like you said, Derick, watching Disney movies, and I grew up, with my dad showing me like every Die Hard film. And I grew up just like huge on like action movies. Even like, Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, obviously like in those younger years too, like a lot of the Keanu Reeves movies, with Matrix and whatnot. I think growing up, probably my favorite movies were like, I was like really into, I never like did it myself, but I was like really kind of into like martial arts. And I loved Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, and I love Mortal Kombat. Like, even though I go back and watch them and the acting is like, there is no acting, but like, I don't know what it is. Something about like, the 90s, it's just like the martial arts, it just hit, dude. It just hit. And it's something I don't think quite can be captured, in today's film world. I mean, I guess the only exceptions I would say would be, which, will be my favorite movie franchise of all time, would be like the John Wick movies. I brought this up the other episode, but that term, it's not kung fu now, it's gun fu. And I think the Matrix started to introduce that too. And for me, it's always been about action movies. I'll watch horror movies and comedies, but it's always really been like, I just love a good action movie, something that you can just kind of jump into and it grabs you right away. Because I'm so, we're also busy. It's really hard for me to sit down and watch like a 3-hour movie that's like a slow burner. I just need that movie to like just basically come out and grab me. And I've always felt like that's what action movies do. I would say, kind of like to Ryan's point, like, Jaws is probably like a big movie for me. I would say like probably the movie that like affected me the most. Jaws is one because, again, my wife and I always say, like, I will not go in the water. And it's true. Like, I watched that movie. I watched that movie in elementary school and, like, it scarred me. But I love the movie. But I would say this is probably the one that's got me the most is the original It. So there's been new versions of It with the clown, Pennywise, but the OG version was like a made-for-TV movie special. It was, if you had the VHS, it was 2 cassettes because it was that long. And that movie made me afraid of like the storm drains, like in the street.
Right.
And it also made me afraid of like drains in the shower because both of those drains are like in the movie. And there's just something about clowns. Clowns and sharks, my 2 bugaboos. Just can't do it.
I was gonna say you don't like clowns, I guess then.
No, hate clowns.
Which I didn't know until right now. That's interesting.
Hate clowns, and I don't want to say I hate sharks, right? But I don't like sharks. But yeah, so that's kind of where I stand. So I sort of wanted to do a little around the horn, and Derick, feel free to just pass the ball off here if you don't want to chime in. But I think Ryan and we could probably come up with like top 5 movies of all time, like a little.
Go for it.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So
Ryan,
how open is this going to be? Let's air these rules out.
So all right, so we'll go back and forth, right? So Ryan will get one and I'll get one, and we'll basically just agree to disagree on, if it fits. And you have to explain your reasoning as to why you think it's up there. And it doesn't have to be long-winded, but there's got to be a reason why. You can't just say because it's a good movie. So Ryan, I'll let you go first. You pick one movie that you think would be, top 5 of all time. And obviously this is very subjective.
Oh boy. I hate questions like this. Like, it's like, what's your favorite movie? And like I said, Jaws, but honestly, like, it's so hard to pick what movie's your favorite. Let's see.
So you don't even have to make it your favorite. You can make it like if you had to give it an award for a top 5 movie of all time, it could be a movie you respect but you hate. Right.
True. I mean, listen, I'm just gonna say one that is near and dear to my heart, and I don't know if it's not gonna win an Oscar or anything like that, but I think it's an important movie. And that's just the first Avengers movie. I mean, listen, that movie was historic because it was the culmination of years of planning by Marvel, and they pulled it off. They pulled off what was seemingly impossible. I mean, dozens. I mean, I don't know, maybe not dozens, but numerous movies with completely different characters, and then coming together and then forming, the Avengers in that big blockbuster. And it not only, it hit the nail on the head. Not only was a box office success, but it was just a great movie. It was entertaining. It was funny. And it gave everybody their screen time. And I think that was the biggest concern going in was, how are they going to fit all these, big time heroes on the screen and get them their shared time? And they nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, Derick, you remember the first time seeing that movie in the theater?
Yes, I do.
It was an experience I'll never forget, seeing that movie in the theater. So just for that reason alone, I got to put that in my top 5. Definitely.
Yeah, I maybe I'll give you guys some time to think and just talk about this. But I kind of agree with that. Right? We had how many movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe before the Avengers, right? And each one of them was setting up that character's story and the people surrounding them. Then you've got the after credit scenes that just kind of rope you a little bit further into the universe. And just the amount of planning, pure planning it would have taken to get to the point of the Avengers, absolutely mind-boggling. Like, you're right. And I think one of the reasons that it worked is, with the Avengers, you don't really have to establish these characters. They all had their own movies beforehand. You know, you don't have to spend, 30 to 60 minutes establishing these people, because they had 100 to 150 minutes each of, story establishment. So I think something like that is able to just jump right in it, kind of like an action movie, right? Jump right in it and pull you in without any, well, not any prior information, but they don't have to recap things, really.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think the other thing, so like I would agree with you. Now, admittedly, I'm not a huge Marvel fan myself, but I will say that I think there's something to be said about like a film that kind of just is like the foundation of like almost like an entire brand. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what the Avengers does, for a lot of like the Marvel stuff. And listen, it's almost, it's like an all-star team, and it's like you said, how do you kind of get everybody their equal parts and have the viewers kind of come out feeling like it was what they wanted. And I think there's a lot of respect that's due to that. So I agree with you. So number one, you're going to put up there Avengers, the first Avengers.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And am I right that this is in no particular order?
No order. Yeah, there's no rank here. This is just kind of like a spitball sesh.
Yeah.
All right,
Chris,
so
you're up.
All right, so I would say now this is going to be this is such a drastic change here, but I'm going to say, all right, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I'm going to say No Country for Old Men.
I've seen it once.
Okay.
I've actually not seen it. That's we got one movie I haven't seen that Derick's seen. There we go.
See,
now,
I was gonna tally up how many of these 10 movies I haven't seen, and I thought it was going to be 10 for 10. But right now, I'm 2 for 2.
So that's impressive. That means you have good taste. That means Ryan has awful taste, because he just said the Avengers over No Country for Old Men. But so my reasoning behind this is there's a few reasons, but they're pretty fairly simple here in the fact that it's a star-studded cast, and again, kind of like your Marvel, your Avengers, not argument, but point was, can you let everyone shine? And this is a movie that does the same. I mean, you have Javier Bardem, you'd have Tommy Lee Jones, Woody Harrelson's in it, Josh Brolin's in it. It's pretty star-studded, but it does something that I've never really seen, and it makes the villain feel like the whole movie, even though he's the one character in the movie, he somehow becomes like the movie. And I don't mean like he takes up all the screen time, but like it's a very strange thing that I've not had before in many movies, where like you're rooting against the villain, but you're also kind of like rooting for him, because it's like totally like a mind twist. And the acting is just like incredible, and the writing is so good, and it's like it's always suspenseful even when nothing's happening. And I think it really got me on to Javier Bardem, and like I just think he's like an amazing actor. In what like the darkness that he brings to the role is incredible. So I think you have to put that movie up there. At least I will. So
yeah. I think a movie like that is only as good as its villain.
Yes,
and that's why, I mean, I'm not gonna say this movie by name, but certain movies are better than others because of the villain. And I think you may know what I'm getting into, but that may or may not be the next movie I'm about to say.
I actually have no idea where you're going.
So let's pass the baton back to Ryan. Go ahead, pick up where you left off.
All right. Well, I mean, you're gonna love this one, but The Dark Knight. I mean,
yes.
Come on.
All right. Yeah.
Batman.
I'm 3 for 3.
If you didn't say it, I was gonna say it. So
well, I figured you were gonna. Yeah, I didn't want to steal your. I stole your thunder. Sorry, but I know you can chime in on this too. I mean, it's Batman. It's Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale, and arguably one of the greatest supporting actor performances of all time in Heath Ledger. The last role he played before he died, tragically. And I mean, what a way to go out if you're Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible movie. I mean, great. I mean, great acting all around. Obviously Nolan's a master behind the lens. The movie looks great. The action scenes feel epic. And a lot of it's, practical. Like the whole chase scene towards like the middle of the movie and that giant semi truck flips over.
Yeah.
Like that is an amazing stunt there. And set
I
piece.
even say it has one of the best, if not the best, opening scenes of any movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the bank robbery scene, it's not even like there's action to it, but it's just like, I don't know. I've never had a movie where it just starts off and you're just like I literally had like immediate goosebumps watching that movie.
Oh my God.
It was incredible.
I'm going to watch that.
To open up to that.
I'm literally going to watch it after we're done recording.
It's amazing. So I agree with you, and kind of like my point with No Country for Old Men. Again, it's like the villain, so to speak, basically becomes the movie, and the acting is so good to where like you can't even tell that somebody's acting. It's like it almost is this person has become this character, and I think that's so powerful.
If you read interviews with Heath Ledger at post-production, I mean, he talked about how difficult it was to stay in that mindset.
Yeah,
I mean, I can only imagine. You're playing a psychopath for however many months they're filming. Can't be easy. But I mean, boy, did he did it pay off for him. I mean, he absolutely incredible, and probably the best introduction to a villain in any movie ever. The pencil scene. I mean,
can't go wrong.
It doesn't
with
get
that.
better than that. I mean, that is just fantastic.
I mean, they make T-shirts with that, so
yeah. But not to be outdone is, Harvey Dent, and then becoming Two-Face.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also. I mean, I guess the first time watching it, he's like, he's kind of shoehorned in there a little bit, but it makes sense, in the context of the movie, and he's great. I mean, he's great in the whole movie, but once he becomes that villain, he portrays that very well.
Yeah,
and,
I have nothing bad to say about any of the movies in the Dark Knight trilogy. So okay, I agree with you. You stole my thunder there, so here I am.
Oh no.
So I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to say, here's a good one. This feels good. And I don't know if Ryan's he might not know this, but There Will Be Blood. Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean,
an absolute film. And
it is a film.
It's another, like, for me, it kind of got me onto basically Daniel Day-Lewis. I have not seen all of his films. Some of them just don't really appeal, but like it's right up there with like Gangs of New York, There Will Be Blood. It's just, again, it's another one of those like acting performances. And that's kind of what I find, I think, is I'm drawn to like just crazy strong acting performances. And it doesn't even have to be like a time period or like a subject matter that I'm interested in, but sometimes you just get lost in the characters. And he does an amazing job. And there's also, I always forget his name.
The guy who
Paul Dano.
Yeah, played the Riddler
Paul Dano.
in the new
Exactly.
Batman.
Yeah,
He's
so I was
great.
going to bring that up, actually.
Crazy.
I
Excuse me,
heard in
crazy
another
good.
podcast that when Paul Dano played the Riddler, it fucked him up in the head.
I'm sure.
He said his
I'm
head
sure.
got hot.
His head got hot.
Yeah, his head got hot, and he couldn't sleep at night from playing the Riddler.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's crazy because he's honestly, I mean, he's not in the movie that much. I mean, he's in the movie a little bit, but he's not doing Heath Ledger's screen time in Dark Knight.
No, but you know what? He's in like short bursts, but like they're very strong parts. Like he had, like, you know what I mean? I could see it being like a very, like time consuming scenes to film and probably like quite a bit of energy involved, for the scenes that he is in. Because it's a pretty intense role, but yeah, so that's where I'm going to be. There Will Be Blood. Again, Daniel Day-Lewis, Paul Dano. I just think, just a level of acting that's probably not met in like 90% of films. All right, so I'm going to pass it back to you.
No, well, I don't want to. Before we move on, the ending. I mean, not the ending. Third act of that movie is just absolutely crazy.
Insane.
And I never. Every time I drink a milkshake, I think of that scene. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. Slurping sound. I can't.
And you know what, too? Like, it's one of those movies where you don't even know who's a villain and who's not. Because it's not necessarily like good or bad guy, but it's like, it blurs the lines in such a great way. And not many films have done that for me. So I got to put that up there in my top 5 or so. So, all right, you can go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, what you got for movie number 3?
Yeah, what do you got?
In no specific order.
Let's see. I'm gonna go with one. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Derick, you might have seen it, but American Beauty.
We watched that together.
I think we did. Yeah. And my I remember watching the movie for the first time. One of my exes showed me it, and I was like, this movie's amazing. Space Chris, have you seen American Beauty before?
I have not.
Okay. So it's basically
I'll tell you, it's a little uncomfortable to watch with your buddy.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some certain things in the movie that maybe don't age particularly well, especially in today's climate. But
yeah,
I mean,
interesting choice of words.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's really funny. And I mean, Kevin Spacey's in it, and everything. I know Kevin Spacey's kind of a controversial guy right now, but I mean, can't deny he's a great actor, and he's absolutely incredible in that movie. He's playing this guy who's going through like a midlife crisis, and I'm not gonna go into too much detail. I highly recommend it though.
But it's got face right now.
It's got in broad strokes. What's up?
Listen, I mean,
character.
Yeah, I mean, he started. Listen, among other things, he starts smoking a ton of weed, and
that's fine.
He may or may not develop a crush on his daughter's best friend. Now, listen, I know it's not like I said. Some maybe controversial themes in that movie, but I mean, the movie itself is fantastic. The writing's great. It's got a lot of humor. It's got a lot of heart, and it's got one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen. And it's a scene involving a plastic bag. And Derick, if you've seen it, you know the scene I'm talking about. Great scene. But I have to put it up there because I own it on DVD, and it's one of those movies that's kind of stuck with me over the years. So for that reason, I'm putting it on there on my list.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm totally winning this right now.
How about the Avengers in the Dark Knight?
And then you come in with that flopperoo.
Well, listen, I don't want to go action movie.
I'm going to drop the bomb here. You ready?
Yes.
I might know what's coming.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
I don't think so.
Saving Private Ryan.
Well, yeah. Okay. Classic.
I mean, not much to say, really. It's pretty self-explanatory. But, I do like action movies. There's something about a good, and it doesn't have to be a particular time period, but something about a good war movie, right? Obviously, the acting's phenomenal. The cast is crazy good. Like, we all know that. But just I feel like I could have skipped history class and just watched that movie, and I probably would have learned more kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
I did.
It's just that good. And just from an entertainment standpoint, like the action scenes, the gunfights, it's just so damn good, right? The sniper, right? That's like iconic. The sniper in the bell tower there. It's just like, it's like you play like video games and you're like, you kind of are like, oh, this is like Saving Private Ryan versus the other way around. You know what I mean? So I got to put it up there. Obviously, Tom Hanks is like definitely goated. Kind of unfair that I just dropped that on you. But
a little bit, but
it's
fine.
there. It's there.
And you talk about best openings to a movie ever. I mean, does it get any more? Does it get any better, or crazy, or action packed than that D-Day
Yeah,
scene?
it opens up with
I
the
mean,
invasion, right?
it's
Yeah.
it's
So this is another one
it's
that I
brutal.
haven't seen, but I remember catching bits and pieces, again, probably on TNT or something like that.
Yeah,
But-
it's always on like TBS vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But I
It's not
remember
the
seeing the
easiest movie to
opening
watch.
scene and thinking, okay, so I got to go somewhere now, but I'm definitely going to get into this
Yeah.
later. And, it's now 14 years later. Still haven't done
You
It's
it.
got
a,
that
it's a long
projector?
movie. It's a
Yeah,
long
watch on the
movie.
projector.
I'll give you that, but like, there really isn't a movie, like a war movie that, in my opinion, can rival that.
Yeah, I mean it's the gold standard, I think. I mean it captures, the horror of war, the heart. I mean it's not a easy movie to watch. I'm surprised
Yeah.
they showed that to us in school. And I'm forgetting exactly when I saw it in school, but I watched it in school, and I think it was high school. Um,
Yeah,
but God, some of
probably.
those scenes are just heartbreaking, and like it's one of those. It's like one of those movies. Sometimes you're like watching with like one eye covered, or like both eyes covered, and you're looking through the fingers. Um, but no, that's a bomb right there. That's a great movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. So,
All right, what are you
Ryan,
going to
the
come
three-
with here?
Yeah,
But,
the three that you've got now are Avengers, The Dark Knight, and American Beauty. You got two left.
Oh man. I
So
mean, I'm not
far, you're
listen.
up
This
against.
isn't a competition. I'm not trying.
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
it is?
We will
No,
let
it's not a
the
competition.
listeners chime in and
Oh,
decide
all
who has the better taste. But go ahead, do your
right.
thing.
Well, I mean, I
No, no
can't- I-
pressure.
I can't have a top 5 movie list and not talk about and not mention Pulp Fiction because
Bingo!
I
Oh
was
man,
waiting for you to say it.
Oh.
I
Dude,
didn't
it's
know if you were
reading
going to do
my
that in the second spot or the
mind.
third spot, but you put it in the fourth spot. So
Well, no particular order.
yeah, no particular order.
no
I just thought
particular
you
order.
might bring it up earlier.
I thought about it. But I mean, I got a post. I got the poster behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but I mean, talk about classics. Talk about classic Tarantino. I mean, just talk about an ensemble cast absolutely killing it. Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Tim Roth, others who I don't know the names right now off the top of my head, but
Etc.
et cetera, et cetera. But Bruce Willis, duh.
Right.
Writing in that movie. I mean,
Ving Rhames. Wait, is a Gwyneth? Is it Paltrow?
no. Oh, no. What's her name from Kill Bill? What's her name?
I always get her mixed up. Her name.
Uma Thurman.
Yes,
Uma.
Thurman.
That's I always mix her name up.
I mean, just talk. I mean, in regards to writing, I mean, it's one of the top movies ever with writing. I mean, Tarantino is always a master at writing scripts, and dialogue in particular. But I mean, it's one of the most quotable movies of all time.
I would argue that.
I mean, it's one of. I'm not saying it is but it's one of the most quotable movies of all time.
I'm just playing.
But yeah, I mean, and the storytelling itself, like it's unorthodox with the whole time skip, kind of scatterbrain storytelling. But it works, and it works because the dialogue's great, the cinematography's great, high drama, lots of humor, and there's kind of wacky. Like the third act is just crazy. So funny, and yeah, that's just a movie that that will never get old. That'll age till the end of time. And one of my favorite, actually, side note, but one of my favorite memories from college, and Derick was there, was showing one of our friends who's a big movie buff, had not seen Pulp Fiction before, and a group of us gathered together and watched it in our freshman year dorm, and just seeing his reaction to all the scenes. I mean, it just brought tears of joy to my eyes to see him, and he loved
I
it.
knew it. I knew
he
you were
still
going to say
loves it.
exactly like that.
Uh, but yeah, that's another atomic bomb I just dropped on you.
So that was your fourth, right? All
Yeah,
right.
it's
So
a
I
good
gotta
count.
I gotta come back with something.
Yeah,
So
right
I'm
now
gonna
you're
kind
at
of.
No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, and Saving Private Ryan.
How you can even argue that? So I'm gonna be honest. I was going to say this. This is not me stealing your thunder a little bit. I was going to say this, and then you came out with Pulp Fiction. But what I was going to say is Django.
Well, yeah. All right.
Now, listen,
right.
I have an affinity for Tarantino films, yes, but there's something in particular about Django. It just I don't know what it is. It's the acting, but I have such a thing for this ability to take like a star-studded cast and everybody, and I mean everybody, shines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Samuel L. Jackson, Jamie Foxx, Leonardo DiCaprio, Christoph Waltz, like amazing, amazing, amazing performances. And then it's just like Tarantino has a way of taking like a serious topic or subject matter, and then like there's always this over the top, overdone level of like gore. So like that shootout scene towards the end in the house, and like literally there's just like the walls are painted with blood. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, that's actually one of those movies I've seen. I've seen it like 3 times, maybe four. It's gotten better every single time I watch it. It just, I remember seeing it in theaters, for the first time, and I remember liking it, but I was like, yeah. I mean, it's no Pulp Fiction, it's no Reservoir Dogs.
So spoiler?
Mm, like, I don't know if I can do back to back to back Tarantino movies, but it's one of those movies you just appreciate more and more as you watch it. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in that movie is amazing. He's so good. That dinner table scene, and
Oh my
apparently
gosh.
when he smacks the table, he actually
Yeah.
cut his hand pretty badly. He had to get stitches.
Yeah, so that
Um,
blood when he's bleeding
yeah,
in that scene, like that's like legit. There's no
yeah,
like effects to that. Like that the blood pouring out of his hand is real.
yeah. I
That's
mean,
so hard.
talk about committing to a role. I mean, Leo is just a master at that. And then Jamie Foxx is obviously great, and Samuel Jackson is just he plays that role so well. Um, it's just kind of the kiss ass because he wants to be in the big house, and he just thinks he's better than everybody. My God, great, no, great movie to bring up.
Great
Respects.
movie.
I do
Yeah.
love
That's
that
all I
movie.
ever
And
bring up is great movies.
I think you're right with the whole, letting all the stars shine. I think when we talked about it in the Avengers, like it was kind of hard for me to think about just because they're superheroes. So like it was hard to kind of separate the actor from
Yeah.
the character. But I feel like when I think about Tarantino movies, I now see what you mean, right? Like there's a bunch of people in it and they all have their chance to shine. I feel like that's what I
Absolutely.
appreciate about Tarantino films and Wes Anderson films too.
And the side note to that too is like not only did like the actors have their time and ability to shine, but it's like the characters, they like there is no such thing as an insignificant character in a Tarantino film. There is always purpose to the characters. And it's usually not even small. Like they all come back around and they all have like such like monumental scenes. You know what I mean? And that's what I think is so brilliant. That's why I put Django up there. But to be honest, same thing with Pulp Fiction. You can kind of interchange really any Tarantino movie, and the praises that you're giving it would basically be universal throughout any of his films.
Yeah.
Despite
And
I think he's a little wacky, but I think that's why everything plays out pretty good.
that's why he's such a great writer of dialogue because he is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I also love his attempt at making like his own Tarantino verse in his movies. Like
Right.
characters are related to other characters in his other movies, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he said
We were
Kill
talking about
Bill.
this
Yeah,
this
we were literally
weekend.
just talking about this weekend with our friend Connor. who is the guy we showed Pulp Fiction to in freshman year.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about that, how like Kill Bill, and I mean, listen, I mean Kill Bill's great. All those movies are great. But Kill Bill is apparently a movie that like the characters in Pulp Fiction would watch. Like that
Yeah.
that was Tarantino's idea with that movie. That's why it's so like over the top, gory, and hyper violent,
Yeah,
and
because it's another level on top
stylized.
of the level in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Kill Bill's so good.
It is.
We're gonna have to do a
So,
Tarantino episode.
yeah, maybe before your number 5, maybe give us some honorable mentions. What do you think
Yeah,
is maybe
that's,
just outside of that list?
I'm gonna need a few. And these are all this is all very subjective, but I gotta include Return of the King, Lord of the Rings,
Okay.
because it's the last movie of arguably the greatest trilogy of all time. It's a
Mhm.
cinematic masterpiece. There's no, it's flawless. Best ending to a trilogy I've ever. It's the most. It's a long ending. It's like a 20-minute conclusion, but god damn it, wraps up every loose end or in every character story arc that's been established in the other movies is just wrapped up in a nice bow, and it's so damn good. Um, oh my god, it's so good. Let's see what else. Empire Strikes Back, obviously. I'm hitting some Mount Rushmores here. Um, Empire. It seems like it's kind of like the Dark Knight of the Star Wars trilogy, the original Star Wars trilogy. I mean, you have the Luke, I am your father. You have the battle on Hoth with the AT-ATs.
Mm.
You have Yoda. I mean, it's got everything. So that's in my honorable mention, and then, well, I don't know what you're gonna say for your last. That was your fourth? You have one more,
That
right?
was
Yeah, nobody's done their 5th yet.
I don't
We're going
want
through your honorable mentions and then
I
number
don't want to say
5.
this other one without risking you taking it because I think you might take it.
Hey man, it's not a competition.
how recent is the movie you're gonna say for your fifth?
I'm kind of like I'll be honest, right now I'm a little torn. So let me hit a couple honorable mentions
Yeah, that's a good idea.
and then I'll kind of drop what I think to be my last one. I think honorable mentions, The Godfather has to be up there. A movie I've watched probably 1,000 times. Played the video game. There is just there's not a better gangster movie, so to speak. Mafia movie. There's a lot of other great ones, right? Like Goodfellas and such. But I think The Godfather kind of set the precedent for that. And I also think, you just can't argue Marlon Brando. You just can't. You can't. I think that's got to be a performance. That's definitely a performance of a lifetime. And I grew up watching those movies, so I got to put that up there. Another one, kind of an honorable mention. It's a little out of left field here, not some of the genres we've been hitting, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Ooh.
That's
Right? You can't leave out like those 80s feel good movies.
Oh yeah.
Breakfast Club. Yeah, exactly.
oh my
Like
God,
those
yeah,
kinds of
Breakfast
vibes.
Club.
You can't exclude those. They're just great films, and there's just something about I wouldn't say that they're like coming of age films, but they're definitely about like exploring kind of what like life is about, and like there's something about them. They're so good. Not to mention they're just damn funny too. Like, well, Ferris Bueller's funny. I mean, that is it's a very quotable movie too. I think there's something to be said about quotable movies, kind of like you said, Ryan. So those would be kind of on my fringe there. But I think my last one, and again, I'm sort of going all over the board here, but probably Good Will Hunting.
Ooh, that's your number 5,
that's
Good Will Hunting?
That's a great one. That's one that I would have put on mine, honestly, if there was a larger list.
There's so much to unpack there, but I mean, obviously you have Robin Williams, a great performance, and also very cool to see Robin Williams in like more of kind of like a serious role, right? Not his usual funny self, but still such a deep character and like just masterfully done. And then like the whole, behind the scenes aspect, like, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, like they basically funded that movie themselves. You know what I mean? They wrote the script themselves, and then of course they're acting in it. And it's just like, it's kind of the launch of their career. There's so much behind it, but, it's a great movie. And I also just love the fact that it's referenced in Step Brothers. You know what I mean? Like in the therapy scene, that kind of adds to it. But yeah, that would be kind of my number 5. Now, not a movie I've seen a bunch of times, but one of those ones where like you see it and like even when you're done watching, like it like kind of holds you for a bit, even when you're done. So those would be my 5. So Derick, real quick, can you recap my 5?
Yeah, you've got No Country for Old Men. You've got There Will Be Blood, Saving Private Ryan, Django Unchained, and Good Will Hunting. The honorable mentions, The Godfather and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
This guy's just on fire.
Ryan, you still got your number 5 slot.
Yeah, before I mention my number 5, there's so many movies. We should have done a top 10.
You got more honorable mentions?
I did have more honorable mentions I wanted to include. Not just
get them out.
One more. Hold on, like give me at least 2 or 3 more. So
oh, you said one more, then you said 2 or 3 more.
All right.
It's just one more, and after I name those 2, then those 3 will be added. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I do it. All right. Well, I want to hit two. All right, 2. I'll do 2. 2 genres we didn't really. Well, we did kind of do horror. But I mean, Silence of the Lambs. I got to put that up there. It's one of the greatest horror movies of all time. One of my personal favorites. It makes me feel icky after watching it, which is
Bill
is in the best way. I feel so like that gives me the heebie-jeebies, like heebie-jeebies to the max after watching that scene. Like I can't get through that third act where she's walking through the house and it's pitch black, like and she's got the goggles on. Like I can't get through that without.
No, she doesn't.
Oh, she does. Oh yeah, he does. Okay, never mind. So
Buffalo Bill has the night vision goggles, bro. He is full like Call of Duty
way
mode.
More terrifying. And then Hannibal Lecter is great. He's kind of like he's a side character in that movie, but he's every scene he's in, he just eats up. I mean, Anthony Hopkins is just a legend.
Eats up.
Absolute legend. See what he did there.
All right, what's the next 7 honorable mentions?
One more honorable mention because we didn't really touch on comedies too much. But I feel like Superbad is the ultimate high school comedy, and it's in my top 3 comedies of all time, and it's so funny, and it's gonna be relevant. Like you can any generation years from now that's in high school can watch that and relate to it. And it hits all the notes, and you got prime Michael Cera, Jonah Hill, Emma Stone, whatever the guy's name is plays McLovin.
Christopher Mintz-Plasse.
Yes, who's in a bunch of other stuff. And then you have Bill Hader and Seth Rogen as the cops. I mean, it's just so great. It's so funny, and I mean, quotable again. But I could just watch that movie like once a month, just
good,
just for laughs. But this leads to my 5th movie, and I think you're both gonna agree that The Matrix is on the Mount Rushmore of movies.
Yes.
Okay, I see you.
There is a definitive Mount Rushmore of movies. I think The Matrix has to be on there just because of its relevance. The time it came out, it kind of kick-started this whole, and as Chris mentioned before, gun fu, slow-mo fighting choreography, and just incredible universe that it established. Like the world it's in, so creative. I mean, it's got to be one of the most creative scripts of all time.
Sure.
Or it's the real world.
Yes, we are in the simulation.
This is a simulation. We're in a simulation. But
I think what's amazing about The Matrix, and it's actually a film that I thought about kind of putting up there for my top 5. What I think is so amazing about it is it pushed the envelope and it kind of took action movies to like another level, in the sense that, like you said, it felt like one of the original movies that like gun fight scenes, even though I know they're all choreographed, but it really felt like there was just some really tight choreography, and it introduced kind of like a way of having like a fight scene that like never existed before. I mean, you can't find, in my opinion, a movie that has fight scenes, whether it's hand-to-hand fighting or, you know, whether it's shooting scenes. There isn't, in my opinion, another movie that matches that. And it's so unique in that sense. And I think it kind of pushed the boundaries as to like what you can do in an action movie, you know?
Oh, for sure. And, you know, it helped jumpstart our boy Keanu's career. I mean, there's no John Wick without
No,
The
I know what
Matrix.
jump-started his career. His career was started with the movie Speed.
I thought you were gonna say Point Break.
Yeah, that I'm just
Point Break.
So,
But
wow,
yeah, how could you not put The Matrix on there? I mean, just
it's good. It's very good. And
classic.
I don't know, still the red or blue pill, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
And-
So, go ahead.
And really quick, I mean, Mr. Smith, Agent Smith,
Mm.
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, that's his father.
Professor Smith.
Mr. Smith's
Daddy
my
Smith,
father.
Please, Mr. Smith was my father.
Daddy Smith.
Call me Agent.
But and can one of you guys remind me of his name off the top of your heads, if you can? Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving?
No,
Oh,
Hugo
yeah,
Weaving.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
yeah.
I mean, he's great in everything he's in, but
Return of the King.
yeah, there you go. I mean, he just eats up every scene, and he just he's kind of the same. He kind of plays the same character in most of the movies. He has the same kind of delivery, but that particular role fits him so well as just being like this AI kind of robot villain. So his cadence with his line delivery and everything just is so good. And whenever he says Mr. Anderson, I just get the chills.
Oh, yeah.
Straight chills.
It's
Why do you fight?
It's one of those things where like his performance as an agent is so good that I find like in the newest Matrix I couldn't get past like just the watered down agents. You know what I mean?
Oh,
There's
I
just
miss
like
him so much.
there is exactly like when he's not involved in the agents, it doesn't feel the same. So I totally agree with that. I think your top 5 is definitely not as good as mine, but still good.
All right. Well, just to recap, Ryan, you've got The Avengers, you've got The Dark Knight, you've got American Beauty, Pulp Fiction, and The Matrix. Chris, you've got No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, Saving Private Ryan, Django Unchained, and Good Will Hunting. Now, again, that's not for us to decide who's got the better list here. We're kind of depending on the listeners. So if you're watching us on YouTube, drop a comment down below. Tell us whose top 5 list you like better. Don't forget, you can always find us on Spotify as well, if that's your preferred platform of listening to podcasts. And you can also follow us on Instagram or Twitter at 5 o'clock sweats. Guys, anything else you want to say? Anything I forgot?
Nah, just appreciate you guys. Ryan, your list is definitely not nearly as good as mine, but that's okay. That's okay because you're wearing a hat and I'm not. So you got me there. But no, we definitely appreciate you guys coming out and listening. And, you know, we look forward to interacting on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about chick flicks, A Walk to Remember, The Princess Bride, About Time, that's my domain. So
I love those movies too. I love those movies too. We'll do an episode about that, about chick flicks,
yeah, okay, we'll see how that goes.
rom-coms.
I'm gonna cry during it.
Put on your pants your house pants at 5 o'clock.
Put the house pants on. Take off your pants, and then put the other ones
no pants.
on.
Yeah,
No
put
pants.
on the sweatier ones.
Put the soft pants on your skin. I'm gonna stop.